Are you thinking of building a camper van? Then stop. Don't do anything until you've seen my entire playlist on how to build a camper van. Hi, my name's Mel, welcome to my world, and for those of you that are new to my channel, it's all about self-built DIY camper vans and camper van related stuff. So if that's something that interests you, then please do consider subscribing to my channel. Now today's video is all about what tools you need, the essential toolkit you need to build a camper van, and it's not as extensive as you think. You really don't need a whole bunch of specialist tools or equipment to build a camper van just like this one. And I've put all my tools on my bed right there. As you can see, there's not really a lot to it. Now I'm going to start off by explaining what woodworking tools you need, and then I'll move on to electrical tools. So we'll break this down into two sections: woodworking and electrical. Let's get into it right now. So here we have the basic tool equipment. This is it. This is all I use to build this entire van, or the interior anyway, not including the mechanicals. This is my entire tool collection that I use to build this van out. So let's just quickly run through what we've got. So the first thing you're going to need is obviously a saw. Now this is no ordinary saw. This is quite special because it's got 3 teeth missing, and I've used this saw to do this entire van with 3 teeth missing. So yeah, I should put this on a plaque somewhere. Now the saw handle, I just want to show you this because a lot of people don't realise this, but this is actually a reason this handle's shaped like this. This is 90 degree and this is a 45 degree. So if you place a piece of wood like this piece of cladding against that edge, against this edge, using your pencil, mark your wood, boom, you've got a 90 degree angle. So you don't really even need a set square like this, or this one for instance. Now while we're on the subject of cutting, you're probably going to want a sharp knife and a decent pair of scissors. You do need a decent pair of scissors, especially if you're going to use that plastic recycled insulation, because that stuff can be a bugger to cut. But if you've got a decent pair of scissors, a long blade as well, you can put your insulation in there and then rest that on the floor and push down, cut your insulation just like that. Staying on the same subject of cutting, you're probably going to want an hacksaw, and the only reason I got this hacksaw was to cut the unistrut when I made my roof rack. And another thing I use my hacksaw for is to cut my passenger seat in half. That's right, I cut my seat right in half just so that I can use the van as a walkthrough. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link up here just for you. I'd highly recommend go and watch that video, especially if you want to make your van into a walkthrough like mine. And it's really simple, and it's definitely a lot cheaper than buying a single passenger seat. Gonna need a hole saw. Hole saw is for cutting holes, obviously, and these are various sizes, and I use these for when I cut holes for my plumbing or for my lights, and the charge sockets as well, the little round charge sockets, and also fitting a Chinese diesel heater. Very useful. And for the big hole saw, this is adjustable. As you can see, it works, and the only time I used this was to cut a hole in my cladding for my flue. I like to spread it out to its maximum length. So that's all the cutting materials. Oh, apart from the rasp as well. My rasp was for making all these angles nice, so when I bang my head I don't cut it. I've banged my head a few times already. So yeah, won't go into that. Cutting holes in the side of your van for your windows or for the skylight, you will need a jigsaw. Now this jigsaw, as you can see, I've taken the foot off because I like to just use this little wheel when I'm cutting metal. It makes it a lot easier, especially when you're going over those corrugations in the roof. So much easier, and I've made a video about that. I'll put a link up here. So that's your jigsaw. You're probably going to need an angle grinder as well to cut your ribs out of your van when you cut the windows. And that is pretty much it. And the reason I've got this on here is because I used it for doing my rust. I didn't even use a circular saw in this build. My circular saw never come out of its box. My unistrut roof rack, I used a spanner and an adjustable spanner to put my and also use this for doing up my battery terminals. That is it, that's all I use them for. Screwdrivers, a flathead and a posi screwdriver. Now when I'm cutting my wood, I like to use these clamps, and these are really cheap, they're not expensive. I'll tell you what though, they're invaluable, they really are. And they come in various sizes as well. Now these mastic guns, get yourself a decent mastic gun. Don't cheap out on these, don't buy a cheap one, get yourself a heavy duty one like this, because if you are fitting windows and you're using the window sealant, you're going to need a heavy duty one. Those little cheap plastic ones just don't cut the mustard. So yeah, don't cheap out on these, get a nice heavy duty one and it will last you for years as well. Other things with handles, staple gun. You got a staple gun for doing your upholstery on the seat. That's the only time I use that, so you don't really need one of these, but I used it when I stapled my upholstery around and underneath the bottom of the seat. Torch comes in handy as well for when you're getting inside your cupboards and you've forgotten a bracket or something, and yeah, you can get under there and have a look. These as well, I recommend getting a set of these. These are torque bits. Get a good set, don't buy a cheap set because they snap, just like that one. I snapped this getting the bolts out the floor of the van when I was lifting the floor up. And what else do I use them for? Bulkhead as well. The bulkhead in your van, it may be held in with these, so you'll need a set of those. When it comes to decorating, my roller, paintbrush, that was pretty much it. A little pry bar for prying your plastic mouldings off your van, but that don't really count as being part of the van build, I don't think. Some sandpaper to smooth that wood down before you paint it. Now when you're cutting your wood, you will need something to put your wood on to saw it, and for that I use a Black & Decker Workmate. And as you can see, this thing has seen much better days. The handle's broke, it's rusty, it's held together with pot rivets, even the top's falling apart, but hey, it still does the job. And I've used this since I was about 16, I think. I've had it for years. I won't say how many because I don't want to give away my age. Now during the build of your van, you may need to get onto the roof, especially if you're going to fit solar panels or even cut a hole in the roof of your van to fit a fan, and to do that you're going to need a ladder. Now when using a ladder on your van, it's always a good idea to put a towel at the top, and by putting a towel on the top you won't damage your paintwork, because it's very easy to damage or scratch the paintwork on your van, and that's the last thing you want to do. Let's get on to electrical, shall we? Now my electrical side, my electrical tools are simply a pair of crimpers for crimping those spade connectors, but before you crimp them you're going to need to cut the wires and strip them, so you're going to need a pair of side cutters and a pair of wire strippers. And again, I've had these since I was, I don't know, since I was 16 or 18 maybe. Yeah, when I first left school I brought these. These are some of the first tools I brought, and I've still got them now. And this thing, this was my dad's. So God knows how old this is. That's just a super big one for those battery terminals. And also I'll recommend getting a simple voltage tester, just something like this, a little 12 volt tester. This goes to ground, and this you can test if any wires are live, and that is a real simple, cheap, probably a couple of quid. When you finish building your van, or whilst you're building your van, you're probably going to want a broom as well to sweep it out afterwards. And I recommend cutting the handle down, putting a stopper on it. This stopper is off of a walking stick, and then that will fit nicely behind your driver's seat, just like that, and that's where that lives, and that'll stay there until I need it. And there's one other piece of essential equipment you're going to need, and that's your mobile phone, so that you can watch my videos on how to build camper vans. So there you go, all you need are basic hand tools. You don't need any specialist equipment to build a camper van just like this. But there is one other thing you need to do, and that is subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my van build videos. Well, if you are new here, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and please do consider subscribing to my channel. By subscribing to my channel you help me feed a cat, and I've got two and they're both hungry. Thanks for watching, ta-da for now. Apart from my hacksaw, what do I use the hacksaw for? Oh fuck! So you'll probably want to stop. Don't do anything until you've seen my essential guide to building a camper van. And all that rubbish. That is rubbish. Pencil, a handsaw, some screws. That's basically what you need, and that's rubbish.